Hello, this is Martin Brossman, KI4CFS, and
this is Paul Garrett's KE0VWZ.
So one of the questions someone asked is, do you need to say 10-4 or Roger on ham radio? And this is going to get comments below, I guarantee, but I wanted to answer it on our show today.
Absolutely. And, do you need to say 10-4 or use 10 codes? It's a good question, and something that a lot of people, if you come from the scanning hobby or the public safety or primarily CBers, it comes up from time to time. Personally, I've done several nets and went to a field day and did some other active things with my amateur radio club, and I personally haven't heard anyone use 10 codes. How about you, Martin?
Well, here's the piece. I think it's generally not really encouraged. I think it's more from the CB era, and many people in ham are kind of tough on the CBers, but I'm very grateful because a lot of the people came to us from CB. My view is it's more in a situation where it's critical to know when you got it, you heard it, you verified it. If you love doing it, my view is go ahead, but generally it's not required or needed for amateur radio. The truth is amateur radio is generally, the voice aspect is just on regular conversation. We don't have a lot of codes needed and others. Of course, we mentioned in another show, 73, that's more of an etiquette. Hey, see you later. But I do want to say I have checked. The Elmers I know say it's 73, not 73s. I was corrected when I started out. Somehow I thought that made more sense. But the 10-4 to me is really out of the 10 code era. And that would be either from the emergency service utilizing it, and then it was kind of picked up from there into the CB area. So my vote is, if you love it, do it. But it's a lot of people are kind of going, you really don't need to do that. If you want to look as cool as possible on ham radio, I'd probably vote no.
Absolutely. And my understanding on the research that I've done is the occasional exception was after CB was created in 1958. And a ham who was also a CBer may have slipped up sometimes on a net or when communicating with others. A prevalence of the 10 codes being used on amateur radio was when, in 1991, the FCC actually made the amateur radio licensing testing where you didn't have to do amateur code, or otherwise known as CW. So in this particular time, a lot of people were flooding into the amateur radio realm from the CBers because they were able to legally have more access to frequencies, and there was potentially a little bit more power there and a way to communicate with others. The 10 codes were kind of something where if you were in MCOM, you may want to use 10 codes to sound a little bit more official. And more often than not, if you were in amateur radio, it really wasn't something that made you sound more professional. It made you sound like a CBer or someone that was coming from public safety. It's absolutely not necessary. Further expanding on that, I did a little bit of research on maybe some of the people that have been in amateur radio for a long time. And one guy said he'd been a ham for 43 years and he'd never heard 10 codes on the ham bands other than a slip by a recent CB convert. Another gentleman, in doing some research on a discussion about do you use 10 codes or not, said he'd had 53 years in the hobby, and apart from an occasional slip up again from someone that was in public service, fire, EMT, police, things like that, 10 codes were never used on amateur band in any place, shape, or form. He said he's worked and listened in the earlier days of amateur VHF, and there really wasn't much. In doing a little bit more research, there was some people that used 10 codes on specific nets in different areas, but it certainly wasn't the norm. And that really backs up what you had shared and said as well, Martin.
We're going to give it a thumbs down if we were movie reviewers. Would you say that? But we
Definitely
won't call people on it or criticize them if they love it and use it. How's that sound?
100%, I agree with you.
This is excellent. Well, this is Martin Brossman, KI4CFS.
This is Paul Garrett's KE0VWZ.
And don't forget to click subscribe and the bell and put comments below. We'll have some more links under there for you as well.
Absolutely. I'm always interested in hearing more comments as well. Thank you.